Non-principal amounts. Non-principal amounts include penalties, fines, fees, and administrative costs. For a lending transaction, you're not required to report any amount other than stated principal. A lending transaction occurs when a lender loans money to or makes advances on behalf of a borrower, including revolving credit and lines of credit. See, I've always assumed that I was the borrower when I went to the bank, okay? And that the bank was the one that was loaning me the money. But apparently, according to Patrick Devine and a lot of people, it's the other way around. The banks don't really loan us money. I mean, when I was buying my house, I don't remember them giving me a whole bunch of money that I can roll around in naked. I just don't remember. Like it was just credits or something, you know? And it was my signature. So I was the creditor, not the borrower. And when I signed my name on that security instrument, they sold it. They foreclosed upon it when they did closing, and they sold it, and it was paid for. Then they were trying to get me to double dip and pay them as if they had given me money, which they never did. For a non-lending transaction, non-principal amounts are included in the debt. However, until further guidance is issued, do I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher? Because nobody is understanding any of this stuff. No penalties will be imposed for failure to report these amounts in non-lending transactions. Well, they didn't really lend me anything, so I guess I won't be having any penalties imposed, but then I want my money. I'm just saying. Foreign debtors. Hey, now this one sounds pretty good. Well, who's that? Who's that? Who is a foreign debtor? Would that be the banks? Until further guidance is issued, no penalty will apply if a financial institution does not file Form 1099-C. They're not. For a debt canceled by its foreign branch or foreign office for a foreign debtor, provided all the following apply. A, the financial institution is engaged in the active conduct of a banking or similar business outside the United States. Just 1 second here. The financial institution is engaged in the active conduct of a banking or similar business outside Washington, D.C. Is that what that means? I think so. The branch or office is a permanent place of business that is regularly maintained, occupied, and used to carry on a banking or similar financial business. The business is conducted by at least one employee of the branch or office who is regularly in attendance at the place of business during normal working hours. The indebtedness is extended outside the United States, which we know is Washington, D.C., by the way, the 10 square miles. This is a corporation. By the branch or office in connection with that trade or business. The financial institution does not know or have reason to know that the debtor is a U.S. person. All right, we gotta break this down a little bit more because I'm a little confused here. The financial institution does not know or have reason to know that the debtor is a U.S. person. I don't know who they're talking about. I really hate doublespeak. I really hate duality because this is ridiculous, because this is twisted. Related parties. Generally, a creditor is not required to file Form 1099-C for the deemed cancellation of a debt that occurs when the creditor acquires the debt of a related debtor. Becomes related to the debtor or transfers the debt to another creditor related to the debtor. Oh my gosh, are you serious? That sentence is ridiculous. Generally, a creditor is not required to file Form 1099-C for the deemed cancellation of a debt that occurs when the creditor acquires the debt of a related debtor. What does that mean? Related debtor. Don't you dare switch screens on me. Oof, gosh. Becomes related to the debtor or transfers the debt to another creditor related to the debtor. Are we talking about relationships or something here? However, if the transfer to a related party by the creditor was for the purpose of avoiding the Form 1099-C requirements, Form 1099-C is required. What the heck are they talking about? Release of a debtor. You are not required to file Form 1099-C if you release one of the debtors on a debt, as long as the remaining debtors are liable for the full unpaid amount. Guarantor or surety. You are not required to file Form 1099-C for a guarantor or surety. A guarantor is not a debtor for the purposes of filing Form 1099-C, even if demand for payment is made to the guarantor. So would that be like a cosigner or something? I don't know. Number 8. We're on page 5, just in case my screen goes crazy. Seller financing. That sounds interesting. Like, you know how when you go to the car dealership, we're going to finance for you. Organizations whose principal trade or business is the sale of non-financial goods or non-financial services, and who extend credit to customers in connection with the purchase of those non-financial goods and non-financial services, like a car maybe, are not considered to have a significant trade or business of lending money. But they do. With respect to the credit extended in connection with the purchase of those goods or services for reporting discharge of indebtedness on Form 1099-C, see regulations 1.6050P-2C. But the reporting applies if a separate financing subsidiary of the retailer extends the credit to the retailer's customers. So that last part says, but the reporting applies if a separate financing subsidiary of the retailer extends the credit to the retailer's customers. Interesting. I don't know. Here's 9, student loan indebtedness. For discharges occurring after December 31st, 2017, you are not required to file Form 1099-C for student loan indebtedness if the discharge of the debt is due to the student's death or permanent and total disability. Okay. Whatever. Multiple debtors for debts of $10,000 or more incurred after 1994 that involve debtors who are jointly and severally liable for the debt, you must report the entire amount of the canceled debt on each debtor's Form 1099-C. Multiple debtors are jointly and severally liable for a debt if there is no clear and convincing evidence to the contrary. If it can be shown that joint and several liability does not exist. A Form 1099-C is required for each debtor for whom you canceled a debt of $600 or more. For debts incurred before 1995 and for debts of less than $10,000 incurred after 1994, you must file Form 1099-C only for the primary or first name debtor. If you know or have reason to know that the multiple debtors were husband and wife who were living at the same address when the debt was incurred, and you have no information that these circumstances have changed, you may file only one Form 1099-C. Okay. So, I don't know, Patrick Devine, I just don't know. Record keeping, if you are required to file Form 1099-C, you must retain a copy of that form or be able to reconstruct the data for at least 4 years from the due date of the return. Requesting TINs, TINs, tax identification numbers. All right, here we go. You must make a reasonable effort to obtain the correct name and TIN of the person whose debt was canceled. You may obtain the TIN when the debt is incurred. If you do not obtain the TIN before the debt is canceled, you must request the debtor's TIN, tax identification number. Your request must clearly notify the debtor that the IRS requires the debtor to furnish its TIN, and that failure to furnish such TIN subjects the debtor to a $50 penalty imposed by the IRS. You may use Form W-9, Request for Taxpayer Identification Number, and certification to request the tax identification number. However, a debtor is not required to certify his or her TIN under penalties of perjury. So the one time that I called the court traffic collector person and I asked for their TIN, they were like, we don't know what that is. Tax identification number. I gotta fill out my forms. You don't want to be charged $50 from the IRS, do you? Because I gotta do my taxes. And he's like, oh, let me ask my supervisor. And they gave it to me. And then I was able to do the 1099-C, 1099-A. I think I did the 1099-A first, abandonment of property, and then the 1099-C. Well, let's just see something here. Statements to debtors. Who would that be? If you are required to file Form 1099-C, you must provide a copy of Form 1099-C or an acceptable substitute statement to each debtor. In the 2019 General Instructions for Certain Information Returns, see Part M for more information about the requirement to furnish a statement to the debtor, and Part J for specific procedures to complete Form 1099-C for debtors in bankruptcy. I'm just trying to think for a second. If we were told by all these peoples, the guru peoples, to do a 1099-C, that means cancellation of debt, and we were called the creditors, and the bank or whoever, the court, that was a Freudian slip, by the way, the court is a bank. If the court was the debtor and we were filing the 1099-C, we canceled their debt for our ticket. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. We know that they're doing insider trading. And they're getting paid a lot more money than this little $910. So that's why Lucky L said to do all those nines, because we don't really know. So he said that that would get the IRS red flags, so they would look into it, because they are like considered nonprofit, or what are they doing? 501c3, and we're gifting. They're taking the money out of the public trust using our name, as they are the administrators of the trust. So we're the creditor. Why are we canceling their debt? Because it's not our debt. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. I know all about the abandonment of property. Like, hey, that's our money that they're taking. Oh, and they're supposed to pay it back. Remember? Yeah, that's what it is. We checked that box because they're supposed to pay it back. Okay, I get that. All right. That again. I get that. Truncating debtor's tin on pay statements. Yeah, we already talked about that. We read it. Truncation is not allowed on any documents. That means to just only put a few of the numbers of their tin or AN. Account number is required if you have multiple accounts. We already read this. The account number is required if you have multiple accounts for a debtor for whom you are filing more than one form. Additionally, the IRS encourages you to designate an account number for all forms 1099-C that you file. See Part L. Okay. Did I already read this again before? This looks so familiar to me. I know I've read it a few times, but I just didn't know if I was reading it here. Okay, box 1, date of identifiable event. Yeah. Amount of debt discharged. Interest, yeah. Debt description, yeah. Check here if the debtor was personally liable. Yeah, that's the one we want to check, because they took money out and they need to pay it back. That's box number 5. Yeah, I've already read this. I've already read this. What happened in this weird thing here? Is that it? I guess that's it. So let's just look at this one. Box 7, fair market value of property. Fair market value should include the appraised value of the property if the property is sold in a short sale. I know I've read this already. If you are filing a combined form 1099-C and 1099-A for foreclosure, execution, or similar sale, enter the fair market value of the property. Generally, the gross foreclosure bid price is considered to be the fair market value. If an abandonment or voluntary conveyance to the lender in lieu of foreclosure occurred, enter the appraised value of the property. So I would think that this has got to do with a house versus some type of a traffic ticket. See how weird that happened? This is bizarre. I just thought this was interesting over here. Who must file? I see a credit union, Federal Deposit Insurance, National Credit Union, any other federal, any military, like a hair, U.S. Postal Service. What up with that? Postal Rate Commission. So where's us? Which one are we? Are we a corporation? that is a subsidiary of a financial institution or credit union? I don't think so. But only if because your affiliation, I don't think so. Whereas us, any organization whose significant trade or business is lending money. I'm an ATM, such as finance company or credit card. Now, lending money is a significant trade or business if money is lent on a regular basis. How did, what's his face, Patrick Devine, come up with the thing that we are the ones that are the creditor? Because right here, it just says down here, who must file. We're not a financial institution, are we? Described in section 581 or 591A, such as a domestic bank, trust company, building and loan association, or savings and loan. I don't know. I don't see that. A credit union? No. Any of the following its successor? No. I don't see us in any of this, you guys, at all. I'm just wondering. I'm just saying. We're gonna have to like look at one of the radiant clone videos on Patrick Devine on why the 1099-C, who, how come, why. I'm just saying because I'm not seeing it here. Anyways, I'm tired, so I read all that boring stuff. So hopefully I'll listen to it again and see if, you know, it makes any sense, but kind of it didn't really click. Okay, I hope that helps. We'll see.